heard of a homunculus? Homunculus is like they have figured out ways they can grow people out of the ground. It's pretty disgusting.
Welcome back. I'm Jet Ski Chuck, and this is the creepiest, scariest TikTok videos. These disturbing discoveries will make you rethink reality. Before we get started, hit that like and subscribe button, and make sure to hit that bell icon and turn notifications to all so you won't miss a video or a live. Now let's dive in.
Those buildings were very similar to those energy reactors. Energy generator. This building looks exactly like one. Maybe these were spinning back in the day, but it just turned to rock somehow. This is interesting. This is definitely generated, but it gives you a little taste of what could have possibly transpired at the World Fair for entertainment purposes only. Where is this at? Honestly, you gotta think, who was gonna put this at the top? Those designs. Oh, that's a palm tree. There's no way that could be. Wow. Wow, look at these fireplaces. What was going on? The fireplaces connected to the chimneys, conducting the ether throughout their homes. That's what we need. Charging our homes up. Free energy. Can you imagine? Wow. Have you ever seen chimneys like this before?
Intrigued many of us researchers is the declassified document by the CIA which mentions the deletion of this country's history, although its remains are still everywhere. We've been indoctrinated with a false historical timeline. Our knowledge was erased and forgotten. These buildings were used for harnessing the ether and converting it into free energy. Their boats ran off free energy. The columns were electric, and the cathedral domes and towers were power stations for transmission of clean, free, and wireless energy. Later on, the parasites put crosses and other religious symbols to conceal the original purpose. Life back then was of community, of oneness, of health, and of technologies hidden from our timeline. Tartaria, the largest, most advanced worldwide empire in history, intentionally destroyed by the satanic cabal.
You can see the people are walking around on something that's absolutely remarkable. I mean, look at that. This is Buffalo, New York, 1901. You know, just stunning architecture. And this all has a frequency. You know, we've talked a lot about this with frequency, resonance, fractals, all of these materials, you know, all the copper that was used. Every statue on top of these buildings had copper. Every angel on top of these buildings had copper. You know, and then you start to wonder, well, copper's only 1% of the soil. Where were they getting it all from? So Buffalo, New York, look at that fountain right there, you know, right in the middle. Just, you know, keeping the water intact. And then this is New York, Buffalo, New York, 1901. You know, this was the sustainable buildings that people were, you know, temporarily building. That's what they were telling us. You got right there. There's more water. And see how the society who was building these, because I don't believe that, you know, they were horse and wagon time at that time, but the society who was building this, look at how much they cherished water. I mean, there's so much water and fountains and all of this. And then you go to the next one, which you have a Coliseum in Buffalo, New York. You know, a picture I don't think many people have seen, which is interesting. You know, do you have this, and that can be energy.
Is this the World's Fair?
This is the World's Fair, yes.
You know, how are they able to control the water and place it exactly where it needed to be?
1570 and no Great Lakes. But we do have Chilaga, which present day is Chicago. No doubt it sits on Lake Michigan, a huge 1570 and no Great Lakes. But we do have Chilaga, which present day is Chicago. No doubt it sits on Lake Michigan, a huge fresh body water. But Chilaga, it is not sitting on Lake Michigan, because Lake Michigan is not there yet. Chicago is Chilaga. If it sat on a lake of any kind of prominence, they would have notated it. They notated the city, Chilago, so how are you not going to recognize the lake that it sits on? You would get ridiculed by the entire town, and your map would not be accepted, because if you cannot have enough knowledge to notate that a town sits on a sizable lake, your map is no good. That is why this map was accepted back then, because back then there was no Lake Michigan, only Chilaga.
He said Chicago Chilaga didn't get populated yet, which makes me think about that Cabbage Patch story, man. This is a crazy one. Lock in for this one. This is Dark Waters 9 for real.
What is this, friend? What is this, friends? What is it with the babies and the cabbage patches? Now, our good friend Miss Pretty told us to talk about the Cabbage Patch babies, and that's what we're going to do. Now, quick history lesson. Back in the 1800s, late 1800s, around 1863 or 1865 to be exact, there was a transcontinental train that was built to go east to west, okay? At that time, there were new states that were being purchased, like the Louisiana Purchase, and we were expanding to the west. And supposedly there were no people there. Because rumor has it, and most theories have it, that there was a Tartarian Empire here in the United States who existed before people got here, and the conquerors came and conquered the Tartarian Empire and took all their stuff, which is why we got a bunch of buildings that look like old cathedrals with gargoyles and all of that. However, when these trains went west, they took children with them. And supposedly these were orphan children who needed to be adopted. So instead of them looking for homes for these kids on the East Coast where they were born or originated from, they shipped them west to repopulate the West. And if y'all think I'm lying, I'm not. Here are advertisements for Orphan. Now, what makes this even more strange is it was said that these kids were going to be reprogrammed. And that they were children of parents who were either out in the streets, strung out, or they didn't make it because they had been drafted. But it was a lot of kids. Now, a little further down the line, there was this woman by the name of Alice Guy who was a French film director. But it was something a little different. I can't quite put my finger on it, but I'm going to see if y'all get it. She all of a sudden started popping up on all these postcards with orphan babies who needed homes. What's suspicious about this, you ask, friends, is where did all these babies come from? Now, again, they try to say that these babies came from parents who were just bad parents, and some of them just signed their rights over because they couldn't raise their children. Their children needed to be reprogrammed. But There's another theory, friends. Dr. Martin Coney apparently introduced incubators at a 1937 World Fair, okay? Now, these World Fairs were made to show people all the type of technological and industrial advances from all over the world. But what he decided to put on display was babies, and preemies at that. Now, they had incubators on display lined up and down this event at this World Fair, but my question is, where you get the babies from? And as you can see, apparently around this time, there was a surplus of babies. Which leads me to my next point, because around this time, all these French postcards come out with all these babies in cabbage patches as if they're being farmed and grown. Like clones, right? And with the purpose to repopulate the West and to reprogram the children from unfit parents. And word on the curve is this man allegedly wasn't even a real doctor. He just went over there and told them people that he went to school, and they believed him because this the early 1900s. Who out here checking to see if you really who you say you are? And remember this lady, the French film director that was in all those postcards with all those babies being grown out of the ground? Child, her and that doctor and some other questionable folks had their own little plant right here called infant incubators. And it shows on the picture with living infants. I don't know, friends. It's giving clone to me. Well, I know that was a long video, friends, and I really hope I ain't got y'all up in too much of a tizzy, but I'm gonna call y'all back later on. Bye. What is this, friends? What?
They had incubators back then in the Tartaria days at the World Fair. What? Oh, this is Dark Waters 9 for real, y'all. Hit that like and subscribe button. That was by It's Mo Graham Crackers. Shout out to It's More Graham Crackers for that video. It's wow. Incubators though? You know we gotta dive into this. Cabbage Patch. I knew it was something about Cabbage Patch. Cause Chicago and them cities is thumping. Where'd all them come from? They had to repopulate. Oh, it's getting real, y'all.
We continued to look through these old postcards. A very strange and unsettling trend started to become apparent. It began with just simple baby postcards. At first thought, seems like any ordinary postcard. But as with the same Sky postcard mystery, where the author began to see a trend of a variety of postcards, well, there's a category of postcards that deserves its own name and label. but it doesn't seem very well known, as there are no websites or videos explaining this topic. We shall call it the mystery of the repopulation postcards. There are other names for this style, such as baby postcards. By the end of this video, you'll be shocked at how many of these there are. We're talking in the thousands. We found one reference to what these cards were in a book on Amazon named Babylon, Surreal Babies, in which the author describes these same peculiar 1900s postcards and how they were deeply influential to many famous artists, including Salvador Dali. Yet, the author even admits that little is known of their history. In order to understand why we've labeled them repopulation postcards, a thorough understanding of resets, Tartaria, orphan trains, incubators, asylums, and oddfellows will be necessary. These cards depict babies being grown. There are many different styles within this category. One of the most interesting is the Cabbage Patch Babies, a variety of themes involving growing babies. Babies on plants, babies on mushrooms, babies in the water, we continued to look through these old postcards. A very strange and unsettling trend started to become apparent.
Cabbage Patch Babies and orphan trains. I've got quite a theory for you, so hear me out. Cabbage Patch Babies, that's basically, have you ever heard of a homunculus? Homunculus is like, they have figured out ways they can grow people out of the ground. It's pretty disgusting, but it's a real thing. And so they figured out how to grow people in basically in a cabbage pod. It's like the same as the pod people. And but they had to convince everybody that the world was a globe, of course. So that all ties into Tartaria. They wiped out everybody. First, they taught all the elders. They tried to get them to accept the fact that the Earth was a globe. Some did, and I think the ones who didn't were killed. And then, along with everybody in the population, and then they repopulated. There was the incubators and the infantoriums of the I'm blanking out. It's the world fairs, the infantoriums of the world fairs, and they would sell these babies, live babies, and nobody knew where they came from. So like Jerry Seinfeld said his dad was one of the babies that came from the World Fair, an incubator. But so they used these orphan trains from like 1850 to 1924 to like repopulate all of America with children. That's why you see pictures of children trying to operate these giant pieces of machinery that obviously are not built for people their size. They're built for adults at the least, if not something bigger than that. And so once they were able to wipe out everybody who still knew the truth about the shape of the earth, they could start their new education program and grow up a whole new America. And where 100% of them, when it began, agreed the earth was a ball. In every big city in America, there has been a fire that destroyed the entire city at some point in the last 150 years. Just Google it. So first, anyone who was a Tartarian, which is a blanket term, I understand, was killed, and then they tried to destroy every piece of architecture that proved what they were doing so that they could try to convince people that technology wasn't better before you came along. And then they grew a whole new society, and they fed them the lies that they wanted them to believe. We are now at the point in our civilization where technology has severely outpaced the lie. So it's very easy now to figure out there are. We're so locked into our programming that it's very difficult to question your reality. Once people do question the reality, consider the possibilities, then they can open their mind and start activating their consciousness. That's when you have the power to make a decision against authority if it's bad for you. Cabbage Patch Babies and orphan trains. I've got...
Are you kidding me? This is Dark Waters 9 for real, for entertainment purposes only. Keep your head on a swivel.
What does it say about our past when, just 100 years ago, people were essentially shopping for infants? And why isn't this widely known? Could it be that this piece of history was deliberately buried or omitted due to its unsettling implications? I mean, did people actually need to mass purchase babies? Was this part of some grand repopulation scheme? Or a migration wave where orphans and young kids were sold and moved westward? We've touched on this topic before. About a year ago, we released a video called Repopulation Postcards and the Cabbage Patch Kids. Our understanding has since evolved, and we got our hands on a brand new collection of absolutely jaw-dropping postcards that we can't wait to share with you. If you missed that earlier video, here's a quick rundown. While researching for our Old World Photoshop episode, we stumbled upon a peculiar trend in postcards from the early 1900s. These postcards, dated from 1890 to 1920, are a genre unto themselves and were circulated throughout Europe and the United States. But here's where it gets wild. Not only do these cards feature babies sprouting from cabbages, there are other categories that make it abundantly clear what's going on. It would seem that babies were being sold in baby farms or even baby shops. We're about to unravel a historical enigma that will leave you questioning everything you thought you knew about the past. What does it say about our past when, just 100 years
Did you know that in our not-so-distant past babies were created and incubated en masse? This happened and was showcased as attractions at the World Fairs and even in New York's Coney Island. Can you even imagine carnival attractions where people paid to watch babies growing in incubators? Where were the parents? What happened to all the babies? Well, have you heard of the orphan trains? They were packed off and shipped out west to help repopulate the great Tartarian cities found abandoned across the land. They were sent to humongous orphanages, and the people were able to get orphans to work their farms and factories. Free labor was abundant, and it was needed to rebuild after the last reset. There is loads of evidence showing that the original Cabbage Patch Kids were these orphans which people just simply picked up and took home like fresh produce. Many children were basically indentured servants and were subjected to lifelong slave labor and sexual abuse. Everything they taught you is a lie. America was covered with empty Tartarian cities, left to rot after the Great Reset, and those that followed grew a few millions babies to repopulate and rebuild. They dug out those cities and started over. Research Tartaria and ask questions. Suspend your disbelief. Like, follow, and share. Did you know that?
That's wild. That would mean whoever's, if this was true, that means there are descendants of that if they knew how to create and grow them. And one of you guys made a comment to me a long time ago. I'll never forget. It said, everyone has a soul, but not everyone has a spirit. So when I'm looking at these incubator boys, it's like that's lining up for entertainment purposes only. Keep your sword and shield on and keep your head on a straight swivel.
I tried to tell you that after the last reset, they was repopulating these cities with these artificial babies, and you didn't believe me. But when I say I got your ass, oh, I've got your ass. This is a postcard from 1910, and the message can't be any more clearer. It literally shows a machine with the words repopulation, and the man has a lock and the woman has the key. And if you think that's weird, then listen to this. There was a time when people used the postal service to mail their children. In the early days of the US Parcel Service, there weren't clear guidelines at what you could and couldn't mail. In January 1913, one Ohio couple took advantage of the US Postal Service's new parcel service to make a very special delivery. Their infant son. I mean, come on. What kind of unhumane thing is this? So once upon a time, it was legal to mail a baby in the United States. It happened more than once, and by all accounts. These people are not human. They have to tell you what they're doing. It's a part of their code. And this postal card is showing those artificial babies on those so-called orphan trains being shipped all over the country. I tried to tell you that after the last reset, they was repopulating these cities with these artificial babies.
This is a tough one, y'all. I'm messed up. But it explains a lot.
Glory be to God. Ellis Island. Talking the Cabbage Patch Kids. This creation got stolen. The mother tree, a rather mother cabbage, she is the grand attraction at the baby land. It's Babylon, general, and she is surrounded by the Cabbage Patch Kids, and she is birthed, the earth. You can walk around this queen cabbage and see all her fresh newborns. All the dolls are up for adoption, can be bought, and visitors simply pick the one they want. Then they put off having the birds and bees talk for another year because the whole experience has completely confused the subject of where babies come from. You guys think I'm playing with you? Cabbage Patch Kids, clones, the orphan trains. It's funny, it's like, you hear about this stuff, if you guys actually took the time to research it, it's really not that insane. History of the incubators. Coney, that's Cooney, so Martin A. Cooney, was an American obstetrician of German Jewish descent, an advocate and pioneer of early neonatal technology. Died in Coney Island. The incubators at the 1904 World's Fair were boxes made of metal and glass, allowing visitors to see the babies inside. If they were healthy enough, babies would be removed from the incubators for public feedings, the museum said. The opening June 21st, 1886, the name was officially changed to Ohio Grove, the Coney Island of the West. Okay, Bohemian Grave. So, the infant incubators, Coney Island. Martin Cooney, a German man, saw a display of several premature babies Boudin had acquired on a loan from a Berlin hospital. A loan. We acquire babies from a loan now? That's what we're doing? So, orphan trains, Cabbage Patch Babies, World's Fair. Okay. The one thing I did get from somebody online was this. Babylon, Surreal Babies. There's an actual book that gave a lot of reference to it. So what's behind the myth of the storks? Remember them? This goes into Egypt, Mesopotamia region, Indus. So in India's capital, wicker basket, wicker man, straw hat. So Nile of reeds. When she could hide him no longer, she took him in a basket made of bulrushes and daubed it with bitumen and pitch. She put a child in it and placed it among the reeds by the riverbank. So yeah, welcome to Smellville. Remember these garbage pail kids? Like Tupac's song, Brenda's Got a Baby, Kid in the Trash Can. We have been conditioned for a long time. So the Temple of Artemis, protector of the children, leaves us with these insane asylums. And again, this goes back before we're even thinking. I don't even know how to say this correctly. A Bimaristan, or simply Maristan, Shifa, House of Healing, House of Hell, is a hospital in the historic Islamic world. Its origins can be traced back to Sasanian Empire prior to the Muslim conquest of Persia. There's an influx of kids. They're getting these kids. They're keeping them alive through these incubators. They're traveling these kids into empty cities that have been founded. These empty cities have gone through resets. So they are plugging the city in with the NPCs, if you will. And then the cycle repeats and continues for mass control. Obviously, if they want to get rid of us, they can. They keep us so that we worship. We go to war for their shit. Go to war for the king. War king. We speak king. King is jinns. Fallen angels. S-I-N-G. G-I-N-S. It's jinns. It's all fallen angels. Yeshua. Yesua. Gracias. The grace. Grace. Yes. Fallen angels. Glory be to God. I'm
rocking with it, man. Shout out Nike 77 Truther. Man, I'm late to the party, I see. Everybody knew about this. You know, did you guys know about this? I've came across Cabbage Patch. I mentioned it. But it makes sense. This is the real NPCs. How they're making it, I don't know. Homoculi. For real. Entertainment purposes only. I wouldn't want to see how they making these, to be honest. How are they cloning, making these homoculi? I don't know if y'all seen Full Metal Alchemist, but let's see if we can get a clip. Yeah, it's not pretty. Want to know how homoculi is created? I couldn't imagine seeing something like that up top. Do you see that thing upside down? Homoculi. They made a whole TV series about it. The Japanese be on one. It's called Full Metal Alchemist. They messing with alchemy. And one of the things you're not supposed to do is try to, you know, bring somebody back or do something. And they tried it. They got literally all the molecules that a human being is made out of and did something unforgivable. And you're telling me that they actually pulled this off after the reset and you got real NPCs walking around? You know, I be wondering why sometimes some people just be ruthless, man. People just be ruthless sometimes. And I just be like wondering, but it's starting to, the pieces are starting to add up a little bit. For entertainment purposes only, keep your head on a swivel.
In the day with the 1900s, with the orphan trains, they were doing a lot of what looked like cloning with children. And if you look back at the 1901 incubators,
Coney Island, I remember this now.
Island,
Yep.
they had this stuff on where they had the incubators and they were showing all these children, and they said they were all premature, which was interesting. Every single child was premature, but they had just thousands and thousands of these children. So, you know, you sit there and wonder, well, where were all these babies being born from? Where were they coming from? And then you kind of sit there and think back, well, 1901, they could have been cloning. And then now they're saying, you know, we can maybe finally do it, but this technology's been around for a very long time.
I never even thought about that. And we had covered, it was one of those nights that I did a strange did you know section. And we were talking about all the incubator babies from Coney Island. They were pretty much on display. Like they were put in, you know, street level windows. It was almost like going to a puppy mill. It was incredible. And never once did cloning ever cross my mind until right now.
Think of like the orphan trains, you know, back in the day with the 1900s.
Somewhere between 1780 and 1815, we experienced nuclear war. And it is likely not the first time in the world, which resulted in a nuclear winter in 1816. A year without summer. The Anglo-Saxons called it 1800 and froze to death. Here are some screenshots from Google Earth. Photos of nuclear craters in the territories such as Belarus. Such craters are easy to find. White traces around craters are broken limestone, the basic material of that time. To visualize the damage, search in Google. Google Roger Fenton Crimea or James Robertson Crimea and see the pictures. And you will see the photos of these first war photographers that were sent to Crimea in 1853 after the nuclear war to take pictures of the siege of Sevastopol. Compare vegetation then and today. This is an example of a photo of Sevastopol by Fenton. Until the 18th century, houses were built entirely of limestone. For cutting, reused advanced machines to make perfect parallelepipeds. Here are some photos of a house in Crimea. All houses in all cities of old USSR are covered in clay for 3 or 4 meters. All houses that are deep in the ground for 3 to 4 meters and have such good quality. It takes 200 years, and during the Soviet era, such masonry of limestone is considered to be very good. This is Eski Kermen. Illiterate guides will tell you that this is one of the cave cities of Crimea, where people lived. And when I asked about this track, I was told that this track was done by cartwheels of local nobility. Whole other forests of the planet were laid down by blast waves.
In 1998, the CIA declassified a document which they had produced in 1957. A section within the document mentions the existence of the Tartarian civilization. In other words, Tartar history was to be rewritten. Let us be frank, was to be falsified in order to eliminate references to the great Russian aggressions and to hide facts of the real centre of Tartar-Russian relations.
Somewhere between 1780 and 18...
This is this is advanced Dark Waters 9. It doesn't get any more real than this. Yeah. It's I mean, they're showing us right in front of our face.
Cabbage?
Well, Tartaria was everywhere, and history is fabricated, completely fabricated, all of it. We used to think, well, you know, the Dark Ages, we don't know what that is. We realised that they invented the Dark Ages and just put that in there to push a whole bunch of stuff back in the past. And we realised, you know, some of history might be wrong, but no, it's all fabricated. The whole lot is fabricated. An interesting thing is the architecture we find all around the world, in all of our cities, that old Gothic style architecture, incredibly intricate design, and people look at it and say, oh, that's just the way they did things in the old days. A lot of those buildings, like, they're so beautiful. The design of those buildings is so beautiful. And think about it, if we lived in a feudal culture, if we lived in a culture where you had to go out and work for a living and earn a wage in order to pay to be alive, you would never have had the time or the inclination to construct buildings that look like that and function in the way they did. These buildings were created as artistic statements. I mean, they were functional, they were power sources, they were generators. They used to generate their own free electricity, all sorts of things. But they were constructed in such a way that the beauty was a part of it. You just wanted to celebrate what you were creating. We don't do that sort of stuff anymore. Just the beauty of those buildings and the incredible complexity of those buildings is a great indication that we didn't live in this pay-to-be-alive society that we're living in now. Tartaria was all over the world. It was an advanced culture that had free energy. It was based on etheric energy, and it existed up until around about 200 to 250 years ago. We think even like the earliest would be about the mid-1700s. It maybe was destroyed, possibly even a little bit later than that. And around about 1880, the late 1800s, they repopulated the world with children. And then they taught them whatever history they wanted. And you've got to wonder where all the children came from. Just look up foundling homes and foundlings and orphan trains across the United States, across Europe. They were everywhere, children everywhere. A couple of years, literally having, they had amusement parks where they had babies on display. They had baby raffles in Paris in 1915, trains of orphans going across the country, across the United States, orphans being sent out to Australia, New Zealand, Africa, just repopulated the whole world with children and then taught them whatever history they wanted. And now we've got to this point where they're basically harvesting all the souls of those people. It's like they grew their herd, you know. I've often referred to the earth as a people farm. We're living in a people farm, and people don't really realize it. I think of each country as its own separate pen, and what they've done now at the end, this is harvest time, and they're stock taking. They've closed all their pens, they're doing their stock take, and they're harvesting all those souls that they can get, leading them into the mainframe. And it's a natural progression from what happened in Tartaria. I mean, this will be the complete loss of human consciousness if they are able to lead us in there and actually able to get away with this. It will be the end of humanity. But when you really look at what we had, I mean, it's incredibly inspiring to see the art and to see the ancient history that's right there in our own cities, if you just go out and look around your city with the right eyes. Well, Tartaria was everywhere, and
Welcome to Tartaria, family. Look at these buildings. And family, you know what I've noticed is the date over here. You see the date? Let's zoom in a little bit. Look at the first one and look at the second one. As you can see, the second one has been chiseled. So normally it's 902, not 1902. And again, we see Tartarian design, but look at this one. Let me cross the street. Again, a very ancient design. And this is the free energy device. Let's zoom in so you can see it. Family, there was an ancient civilization and they are not telling us about it, but the evidences are everywhere around us. This ancient building, they turned it into a museum.
Alright, y'all, that's it for today's episode. If you made it this far, some words of encouragement in the comments really help your boy out, and make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. I wanted to dive more into Chicago, but man, these waters just had other plans. But tomorrow, we're going to dive more into Chicago. Be looking out for that video. We might be going live today, guys. So be on the lookout for that live around 10 p.m. Eastern Time. It'll probably be around 8, closer to 8 if I do. Thank you for watching. I love you guys. This was a juicy one, man. Definitely something to think about. So let me know your guys' thoughts in the comments below. We're going to be diving into Chicago. What do you guys want to see me dive more in? Kind of keep it around this subject, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace out.
Thank you for watching, and a huge thank you to all our members of Dark Order's 9 Society. Keep your head on a straight swivel.